we're going to introduce you to some speed gamers that run through Halo faster than a grunt on fire, I tell you. Now, to my right, we've got our speed gamers, Eric and Dean. For those of you who don't know, speed gamers are guys who learn to play through games as fast as possible just for the fun of it. So we're going to start these guys off in just a second, but I have to ask you, Eric, what's the key to successful speed gaming?
Run like hell.
Run like hell. That's a very good strategy. I bet it takes some good memory, though, too.
Yeah, lots of memorization to know where all the opponents are and everything.
Yeah, okay, I want to ask you, Dean, how long did it take you to finish Halo 1? What's your fastest time?
Our fastest time is 2 hours and 30 minutes right now.
Oh my gosh. Okay, seriously, it took me 2 hours to finish level 1 on Legendary. Not joking. Maybe 2.5 hours, but I'm going to start you guys off in just a minute, okay?
That was DJ Dap and Ripter at the G4 TV Halo 3 Countdown Live on September 24th, 2007. They were there representing High Impact Halo and High Speed Halo, both websites having existed for years prior to Halo 3's release. With an established community already in place, the release for Halo 3 was huge. The community were already making predictions and speculation about how fast Halo 3 could be, among other things. I want to preface this video with a few things before we get started. A lot of the earliest footage, videos and records are now lost to the internet. You only have a handful of them at our disposal. Fortunately, there are other resources available, but I just want to say that this may not be the complete history. It's the best I can piece together with what's available. I also want to say this video will primarily be focused on Easy and Legendary solo Halo 3 runs. I'm aware other categories exist and have existed. Early high-speed Halo runs tracked normal and heroic. They were generally less ran and less optimized. The community have since agreed that Easy and Legendary should be the main difficulties. And I'm sorry to co-op runners, I may cover your runs in the future. And one final comment before we get started with the video properly. Early high-speed Halo manually dealt with the verification queue and which records to publish, so if a runner submits 3 ILs, they would just simply pick the fastest and discard the other 2. It's unfortunate for accuracy and it's a flaw of the website, which would later be fixed. Halo 3 released September 25th, 2007. It launched with several new features which made speedrunning far more accessible. Theatre mode, in-game timer and carnage report, file share, and the ability to link online stats for campaign through Bungie.net meant that runners had far more tools at their disposal. Knockyard announces that high-speed Halo will not be accepting speedrun submissions until October 18th. He also proposes the idea of a potential Go Nowhere Fast contest, and advises speedrunners to save serious speedruns until then. He did note in the fine print that he doesn't think runners should actually wait, but as we all know, no one reads the fine print. This date was tentatively pushed back until October 26th, but was later reverted to the original October 18th. Going Nowhere Fast was a competition originally hosted for Halo 1 back in 2004. The goal was simple: complete any level of Halo as fast as you can. Anyone could compete. A few prizes were offered, and it helped kickstart the Halo speedrunning scene. There were a few runs before this, but this was the start of what is considered the growth of the community. Here are the final results for Going Nowhere Fast Halo 1 contest. It is also now believed that it is likely that some of these submissions were spliced. However, despite the community awaiting a new Going Nowhere Fast Halo 3 contest, people were still happy to share their times, although some were more reluctant to share strategies or videos. As soon as the game released, the forums were flooded with people sharing strategies, discovering glitches, breaking the game in any way possible, going out of bounds, posting Easter eggs. You get it. Goat Rope creates a thread the day of Halo 3's release, posting 2 speedruns. Floodgate Easy in 4:23 and Floodgate Legendary in 4:30. Let the speedruns begin. People were pretty shocked to see times being posted so quickly. It would take a while for others to join in with speedrunning and sharing times. In the first week of Halo 3's release, Goat Rope is the only person to publicly share easy times. By the 30th of September, he has ran the entire campaign except for the Arc, and has a rough groundwork for how fast levels can be. As October 18th rapidly approaches, the community worked together to find all kinds of shortcuts, glitches and tricks in Halo 3. Going over this thread and others in the forum, we can piece together what is known in early Halo 3. Some of these tricks include Sierra Phantom Skip and Gap Jump, Liftless on Zavo, the door button presses on the Storm, the rock jumps at the start of the Arc, and the third roundabout skip on Halo. It's interesting because the Sierra Phantom Skip was known but not used in a run for years. A theme which will be consistent with a lot of early Halo speedruns. Lots of tricks are being discovered in the tricking community, but had slow integration by the speedrun community. If you're curious about the history of tricks, I made a few videos. 2 outlining 2 of the biggest tricks in Halo 3 speedruns, and a general video on how tricks and glitches evolved. As the official date loomed, with no word on Going Nowhere Fast 3, runners were still unsure on whether or not to start sharing runs and times. On October 18th, 2007, High Speed Halo publishes its first run, Floodgate Legendary in 4:15 by Goat Rope. Goat Rope's Floodgate run is pretty standard. It's a normal run through with a single grenade jump. The community continued to bring down the times. The times Goat Rope posted on the 30th of September had mostly all been improved by the 21st of October 2007. The times page slowly begins to fill. An apparent problem is that no one knows what the fastest times actually are, highlighted by Butcher's post. People are hiding times, strats, and the first few weeks are a mess until the storm begins to settle and Going Nowhere Fast blows over. As the community continued to break records and find new ways to speed up the game, a few noteworthy records are set. Cortana Legendary in 8:15, and Sarville Highway Easy in 3:30 both by Goat Rope, and Halo Legendary in 11:58 by Cody Miller are among those records. Goat Rope's Cortana run sets the foundation for all future Cortana runs. Featuring camo time-ins and navigation through certain rooms, this would set the standard for all the future Cortana Legendary runs. This would also be one of the first Legendary ILs on the website and was deathless, something most other ILs would take months if not years to achieve. Even some of the first heroic submissions were not deathless. This run was way ahead of its time. His Sarville Highway run was also the first to skip the grav lift, a difficult trick known as liftless. Cody Miller's Halo run is the longest lasting Halo 3 record to date, lasted an incredible 2,067 days or 5 years, 7 months until it was beaten in 2013 by Agent Stalker. It features a handful of tricks, possibly the most tricks on the level at the time, the fast spire climb, killing Johnson and skip dialogue, early door inside the spire, and a roundabout skip. All being deathless or legendary, something only achieved by Goat Rope on Cortana and Floodgate up to this point. By the end of 2007, this is how the record sat. Normal Crow's Nest was fast and easy, no solo runs for the Ark, and clearly a lot of work still to be done. There would only be 40 submissions for easy and legendary solo. More if you're including all the other times, normal and heroic, and further for co-op. 2008 would continue to be a steady year for Halo 3 records. January would see Slinky fill the Storm legendary slot with a 10-11, and new runner RC Master would submit the first easy Arc record at 12:35 to get the ball rolling. Slinky's Storm run would utilise one of the first out-of-bound tricks found in Halo 3. January is also when we would see our first submission by XP Master. He fixes the issue of normal Crow's Nest being faster than easy, beating it by 2 seconds. He goes on to improve Crow's Nest 2 more times by March 2008, pushing it down to a 9:08 on easy. Goat Rope submits the first Crow's Nest legendary time at 12:15 on the 1st of Feb 2008. As 2008 continues, we start to see the time slots begin to be filled. On the 29th of March 2008, we finally see the first submission of Arc Legendary by XP Master. A staggering 20 minutes and 25 seconds, uploaded in 2 parts on YouTube. A few deaths, but the groundwork had been set. This run highlights the example of tricks being known by the community, but not translating or being integrated into speedruns until later. Trickity Trick 5 by Devin Olsen, released September 25, 2007, shows how to climb the spire using a chopper, a strategy used by current legendary runners. The trick was known, but not used in XP Master speedrun.
Infantry on the spire.
On the 17th of April 2008, Maximum Fear hosted a contest. Complete Cortana on Legendary faster than anyone else. I looked into this, and unfortunately I wasn't able to find any outcome or resolution, but it's refreshing to see other parts of the community start to show interest in speedrunning. The very next day would be a big day in Halo 3 speedrunning. XP Master does something incredible. He submits a 1:17:03 easy full game run, a very fitting time for the game. His forum post outlines his level times, which would be the timing method for full game in 2008. This run would later be retimed to a 1:20:18 when the community switched to theatre time in full game. His run would feature nearly every known trick at the time, with the exception to Salvo Liftless. The total time would be only 4 minutes and 10 seconds slower than all the Easy ILs combined, an impressive accomplishment. Full game runs in this era were rare. Individual level speedruns were mostly tradition at this point. Despite the new tools at the runners' disposals with Halo 3, the lack of ability to capture runs, record for hours at a time, and no place to host runs online made it so runners typically stuck to individual levels or ILs. XP Master's run was captured through his file share. Before Halo 3, it was normal for a lot of runners to even submit their runs by post. There were only 5 full game runs at this point across all Halo games, and at least one of these 5 has been confirmed cheated. Going back to Vulcan's thread of currently known strategies at the time, and comparing it to XP Master's run, he definitely has been doing his research. Of the known strategies at the time, he does not go for Sierra Gap Jump. He does hit the elevator button on Crows early by jumping into the shaft, and spawn kills the brutes at the jetpack fights. Liftless is not hit, instead he uses a grab lift, with a pretty substantial run-up. He hits the door switches on Storm from underneath, although runners at the time didn't realise you do not need to stand in the vehicle. He jumps through the window at the start of Floodgates, and propels himself towards the ending of the hammer. He does a nice rock jump at the start of the arc, and takes the chopper through the wall to the Scarab. He hits the dialogue skip at the end of the arc, and adds in a few more hammer boosts on Covenant and Cortana. He hits the fast stasis break, which is 2 hits instead of 3, and finishes the run with Spire Climb, Johnson dialogue skip, and third roundabout skip. The groundwork was set, the run basics and foundations were now in place. As 2008 continues, runs being posted begins to slow down. Between May and August 2008, only 11 runs are posted. And to clarify, that just means 11 runs in the Easy and Legendary main categories. Users begin to wonder what is happening. This would start a downward trend of the years to follow. Unfortunately, neither of these threads are archived, but you can understand from the preview what they're talking about. Runners were beginning to have to wait months to see their runs posted. Only a couple more noteworthy things happened in 2008. Malu submits a 14:45 Arc Legendary, cutting 4 minutes and 26 seconds off XP Master's previous record of 19:11. Unfortunately, this run isn't deathless either. It does feature some new tricks, finally using the Spire Climb with the chopper, and a new strategy at the end for blocking the camo brutes. New runner Boar would submit 3 runs just before New Year's Eve 2008. He pushes Arc Easy, sub 12, and sets one of the longest lasting records to date. Salvo Highway Easy in 319, which lasts an incredible 1,878 days, or 5 years, 1 month and 21 days. The second longest lasting record ever. As 2008 came to a close, here's how the submissions looked. 35 in total. The times page looking much more healthy. Only a few slots left to be filled. Sierra would require some attention, the odd spot on Ark and Covenant to fill. Cortana and Crow's Legendary would be faster than their heroic counterparts. 2009 continues the steady decline we've begun to see towards the end of 2008, with only 15 Easy and Legendary records set through the entire year. It's a significant step back from 2007, which had 40 submissions, and 2008, which had 35. It is also understandable that most of the runners would move to ODST in September with its release.
You gonna tell us her name, Gunny?
Ms. Naval Intelligence. Our new boss. Oh, brother. So check your mouths, find your chairs, and get set for a combat drop.
Cheese Like a 92 does start 2009 off to a strong start, finally submitting a Sierra Legendary speedrun. He drops 2 Sierra speedruns at the start of the year, utilising the Phantom Skip from Vulcan's thread. Arguably, the biggest event in Halo 3 that year would be Rawson's Floodgate Legendary run in 338. This run marked the start of a new era. The box launch had found its way from the tricking community a few months prior to the speedrunning scene. Discovered by Xlax007 earlier in the year, Rawson had blown open the scene. If you're curious of the history of the box launch, check out my other video on the topic. 2009 continues to see a few more noteworthy events. War goes through this year, slowly taking every easy IL. By the 1st of September 2009, he has completed his clean sweep. Taking Halo and Arc Easy, he now owns every single easy IL, something never seen before in Halo 3. To close the year, Goatrope's Cortana is finally beaten, twice. Cheese Like a 92 on the 13th of December, then Naked Eli 8 days later. Cortana now features a quicker ascent through the Hell Room and a Cortana moment overlap. ...2010 was a pretty dire year for total submissions posted. Only 3 new easy or legendary runs. It's hard to tell the exact cause of this, but with ODST still being a new game, and with Reach being released later that year, it makes sense that a lot of runners would be running those instead.
This is Sierra 259. You got Spartans on the ground, sir. We're not going anywhere.
And for most of 2010, Knockyard took it upon himself to work on a new website. He posted a thread in February, with the site going live in August, meant that it took a lot of his time and resources away from recording, publishing and posting the runs. We would see the first ever Covenant Legendary time at 1546 by Malu. And Cheese Like a 92 would also improve Storm Legendary to 719. We would also see some groundbreaking accomplishments elsewhere in the community. Naked Eli would be the first to finish all Halo 3 ILs and Legendary without firing a single bullet, 0 shot, setting 8 world records in the process. And we would also see Cody Miller be accepted into Awesome Games Done Quick at the end of 2010. The dawn of the live streaming era had begun.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah.
Oh, boo, I hope people aren't disappointed.
Yeah, most people would rather you be able to show off than have to play it safe all the time to survive.
You know what, we'll just do this normally.
This is the way the world ends.
The run was a disaster, winning a GDQ-wide rule known as the Halo rule for years to come. It was a devastating blow to the Halo community. The run did a lot of harm to the perception of Halo to the wider audience. 2011 would arguably go down as the worst year in Halo 3 history, with only one record being set. Plug It Easy by Rawson in 3:45. High-Speed Halo was also caught up in a malicious attack, adding to the further setbacks the community had to deal with. Now, Cody Miller was given a chance at redemption. He was given a chance to speedrun Halo Reach at AGDQ 2012, a year later. The run wasn't much better, and definitely wasn't the redemption the community needed. I'll let this clip sum up the run.
They don't speak English. Oh.
This is optimal. Gamer. This could be me right now. He's even pausing, waiting so he doesn't die. And this is... okay, never mind. I take it all back. I take it all back. Just drive. Just go. Just go. No, you got checkpoint immunity. You can't splatter him. You can't splatter him.
To kill him, so I have to probably...
Just go. Press the button. You tried to splatter him again.
Strongest elite I've ever seen. Yeah. Well, that's why they call him elite. Call him, that works.
That works.
Well, this is one elite that lives up to its name. That's just some pretty powerful plasma. running over somebody is not slowly shooting.
Fourth try, boys. Let's go. He's fucking dead. He's dead.
That is not good. I did not.
So now the scene was at an all-time low, but there was a hero on the horizon. Halo 3's Unsung Hero would join the community in 2012. A mysterious runner from across the ocean would begin his sweep of Halo 3 Legendary. Starting off as a perfect dark speedrunner, Japanese speedrunner History 100 quickly moves on to Halo 3. Hopefully oblivious to the damage the community had just witnessed, executing a skill level never seen before. He would entirely overhaul the game with a variety of new tricks and skips, dawning what I consider to be the modern era of Halo 3 speedruns. Being the first to hit tricks such as the deployable cover launch in ILs and hammer launches outside of floodgates. Refining one of the biggest skips in Halo 3, he is the first to hit the barrack skip with the Great Launch. His total domination of the game was admirable. I remember myself being unsure if his level of precision was even possible in a controller, and wondering if he was somehow using a keyboard and mouse. Not only did he have great precision, he would perform strategies that only he could pull off. For example, in his Crow's Nest record, he skips the deployable cover when dispatching the drones on the turret, something never seen today. In 2012, he would take 5 out of the 9 legendary ILs. Starting with Sierra, he would also continue to take Floodgate, Cortana, Ark, and Crow's Nest. In 2012, there were 2 other submissions. Hipfire started the fabled Battle for Crow's Nest Easy, and Cheeseliker improved Malu's Covenant Legendary. 2012 featured a small event known as Speedrun September, which, as explained here, Knockyard would post 1 speedrun a day. This was across all games, all difficulties, and all categories, which in context would be the most active month of 2012. Speedrun September would post 2 Halo 3 speedruns, both from History 100. 2012 had 8 new records in the Easy and Legendary categories, History being 6 of the 8. 2013 would also begin with 2 more History 100 records, Storm and Covenant Legendary, bringing him up to holding 7 out of the 9 records, missing just Halo and Sarville Highway. Covenant would feature an absolutely phenomenal box launch for the time. At the end of one of the hardest levels in the game, History 100 hits a hell of a launch. Followed up by the Bridge Return launch. Neither of these had featured in a run beforehand, and he hits them on Legendary. Ancient Stalker's first and last world record in Halo 3 will be ending Cody Miller's longest world record streak, Halo Legendary in 1151. This run was unfortunately never actually published to High Speed Halo, but it's recognised by the community as the record that dethroned Cody Miller. Hipfire continues the Battle for Crow's Nest Easy with an 831, showcasing 2 new hammer launches, another example of a great launch and the bomb room launch. History 100 also improves Sarville Highway Legendary with some cleaner driving, bringing him up to 8 out of 9 world records. Ancient Stalker being the only current person to prevent History from his clean sweep, but the biggest event of the year was the first person to beat a History 100 record, which was Storm Legendary in 6:49, set by me. Now, I should probably clarify this wasn't my first world record. I, like many other runners, ran other categories first, generally less optimized ones for easier world records. This was my first world record that sat in either the Easy or Legendary main categories. On the 1st of October 2013, the community decided to actively abandon High Speed Halo in favour of a community-ran Google document. The power was now on the people to update and post their own runs as soon as they got them, rather than waiting up until a year to see their time shared. The High Speed Halo era was over. It was an era that did not benefit the speedrunner. There was no active leaderboard. The submission process would take up to a year to publish speedruns. Runners were actively disincentivized to speedrun. There were already so few speedrunners in the scene, and most had quit by the time we moved to the Google documents. The poor management and the way the website was handled led to only a few runners remaining, and this situation was not just Halo 3, but spanned the entire franchise. The high-speed Halo era of Halo 3 speedruns started pretty strong in 2007, but as early as 2008, it had begun its decline. With the advent of the live streaming era on the horizon and the dawn of HaloRuns.com, the community would feel a breath of fresh air to come. 2013 did, however, end at an all-time high. Boar fans the flames for the Battle for Crow's Nest Easy, being Hipfire's first direct competitor. He would tie Hipfire, then beat his time with an 8:29 on Easy. The very next day, Boar would beat XP Master's full game run from 2008 with a 1:15.56, also improving Crow's Nest Easy to an 8:25 the very same run. Northurslow, a well-known Portal runner at the time, would pick up Halo 3 Legendary and began to learn on the 29th of November 2013. And by December, we would see his first submitted time. The first Legendary full game time was 3 hours, 38 minutes and 17 seconds. Unfortunately, no video for that one. Now, Araxade saw this and wasn't happy, and 4 days later, he improved his time, bringing it down to a reasonable time of 1 hour, 41 minutes and 46 seconds. Boar ends the year by giving us all an early Christmas gift of a new Sierra Easy time. Sadly, none of these videos are available for us to watch and analyze. These videos were all featured on Sliding Ghost's YouTube channel, which is now deleted. So evidence of these runs only exists in these old Skype logs. And here is how the 2013 submissions looked. 2014 would go on to be the biggest year in Halo speedruns. Community-wide, it was the most impactful and led to the reason this video even exists to begin with. Mr. Monopoly's Halo AGDQ run 2014 saved Halo speedruns from the brink. Performing an excellent speedrun live in front of thousands of viewers and having a new home for Halo speedruns, we saw a rebirth of the community.
He's actually in the worst place possible right now, which is going to work. Okay, it worked.
That he can use it to sword cancel.
Sweet.
HUDless. Nice.
Because I want the angle to be steep enough. There we go.
Nice.
So I'll fly up to this tower, and then hopefully land right on it. There we go. Sick.
Nice.
In January 2014, we saw more world records set from 2010 and 2011 combined. Hipfire improves Crow's Nest Easy 3 times in the first 3 days of January, setting an 8:24, an 8:21, and finally an 8:13 on the 3rd of January. We would see the return of Rawson. He steps out of his floodgate comfort zone, tackling and improving Sierra Easy twice down to a 5:26. This would be around the time when most runners are now starting to livestream their runs. Rawson's Sierra shows a nice modern route. It features the newly discovered Cortana skip and also starts to explore the importance of movement in Halo 3 and how impactful slide jumps will become. February would start with 2 new runs from brand new British runner Nagato, hitting the first sub-6 Storm Easy, with mostly clean movements and a better second lake bed to push the time down. The same day as the 5:58 Storm Easy, Boar also improves Covenant Easy to an 11:35.
This game is so slow. There's gotta be a better way.
Well, now you can.
What?
HaloRuns.com is an interactive HTML-based website for storing Halo speedrunning times.
Did you say HaloRuns.com?
Why, yes, HaloRuns.com.
I've heard of HaloRuns.com. I hear it's the best Halo speedrunning website around, and uses iterative algorithms to aggregate tons of user runtimes together and assign points to individual runs and runners based on their relative length compared to the world record, or you can even claim a world record yourself.
Yeah, using it is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Build a PC.
The community finally had a functional home. On the 6th of February 2014, HaloRuns.com opens to the public. HaloRuns.com was a total reinvention with radical changes. Power was firmly placed in the hands of the community. The code was written by Goatrope and a couple others, and basic rules were set in place. They also got rid of the excess categories down to the main 2, Easy and Legendary, with the belief that too many categories waters down competition and creates less meaningful runs. The records continued rolling in. In February 2014 alone, there was a further 11 mod records. I improved Halo Legendary in attempts of keeping it out of history's hands. At this time, he still held 7 out of 9 individual level world records, pushing it down 22 seconds from Ancient Stalker's time. Nagato joins the Battle for Crow's Nest Easy, the community-coined challenge to push Crow's Nest sub 8, beating Hipfire by 1 second. Nagato would also push another milestone, being the first to push Cortana sub 7 on Easy, beating Boar's record from 2009. But the biggest event of the month was Araxade improving the Easy full game time, being the first person to simultaneously hold Easy and Legendary full game records. March continues to be a fantastic month for Halo 3 speedruns. Nagato dropped Crow's Nest Easy to an 809, then an 802 mid-month, inching closer to the elusive sub 8. Araxade shows his dominance by beating 2 further History 100 records, Sierra and Salvo, with a 631 Sierra and a 326 Salvo, knocking History down to 5 out of 9 world records. At this time, it is unknown if History is even active doing runs. We hadn't seen a run from him since September 2013, so his whereabouts were unknown. I finally get my name on the full game leaderboard, setting a legendary world record at 1 hour, 40 minutes, and 31 seconds. Unfortunately, this footage is long gone, but I can easily summarize to you how the early runs looked. In Halo 3, the legendary description reads, "Tremble as teeming hordes of invincible alien monsters punish the slightest error with instant death, again and again." That's pretty much how early legendary runs looked. We died a lot. There weren't really many strats or tricks used. It was a battle for survival. I, for some reason, do have my second ever run recorded, like a 155 something, and if we can see here, some basic understanding was already in place.
Checkpoint delay.
There was checkpoint delay in, strats used, you know, needed some work.
Wow, what a launch. That was...
And there was a lot of deaths.
Oh my god.
A lot of deaths.
Wow.
April was a legendary month, seeing 5 new legendary world records set. Araxade beats my full game time by 4 minutes. Unfortunately, there are only videos of these, so we can't break down the runs of this era. Nagato and I would also improve Crow's Nest Legendary. Now, I know for a fact that I had a few other runs outside of these few submissions, but without evidence and memory of them, we'll stick to what we have here. Okay, so I did just find a Discord screenshot that shows some more Crow's times. So a quick funny story about Shifty's Halo Legendary record that he sets. I was 6 seconds ahead of Shifty starting the Warthog run, yet he beats my record by 17 seconds, meaning his hog drive was 23 seconds faster than mine. My driving was atrocious, and Shifty, being a kart racer in real life, definitely helped with his ability to drive. The biggest event of April was Shifty, a newer runner claiming his first full game world record. This is one of the earliest full game runs where we still have footage, exactly 6 years and 1 day after XP Master's run. The run clearly has a bigger emphasis on movement than previous runs. He would actively seek out slide jumps, also making sure to include the newly found Cortana skip on Sierra. The Sierra gap jump was now changed to a grenade jump instead of a brute shot jump as used in previous IL world records. Crow's Nest now includes the hammer launches we'd come to expect, saving a lot of time over XP Master's run. He has an okay salvo, choosing to continue the tradition of using the grav lift across the bridge. He has some trouble on the Storm in the first lake bed, where he accidentally misses the kill on the AA Wraith with the missile pod, and he gets the Phantom kill in the second lake bed to hit the load with the Scarab early. Floodgate, he hits a few hammer launches, but misses Cortana skip, and ends the level with the first try Chasm launch.
Come on, don't die.
He has to resort to a backup strat at the start of the arc, and does the wall climb, which leads to the eventual Sparkle deload being found. Unfortunately, he does not get the deload in this run, but based on his commentary at the time, it is known about. He does Malu's ending with the DC to block the camo brutes, and actually he ties his world record arc in this full game run. There's a couple hammer launches sprinkled through Cortana and Covenant, with an extremely scary Hellroom ascent on Cortana.
Yeah. Oh. Okay, we in there.
He does his best for a fast spy fight by spawn killing the enemies, He double lasers Spark and has his traditional, pristine, shifty driving to end the level. This run was a good basis for a modern run, a good showcase of all the new tech that had been developing over the years. Hammer launching was still in its infancy, but Shifty's run was a solid start. Shortly after Shifty's run, we would finally see the culmination of several years of Crow's Nest easy runs. Dating back to 2012, Nagato would finally end the battle for Crow's Nest easy with a 756 on the 27th of May 2014, featuring the fabled Nagato grenade, allowing him to be closer to the hangar exit when the enemies die. He plays the rest of the level super clean, gets a fantastic run. Another minute barrier broken by Nagato. Uraxade would drop his own Sierra ledge record by a further 28 seconds to a 6:03, opting to not do the phantom skip at the start, riskier but faster. We would see a few more full game records set. On the 6th of June 2014, Nagato and I both set full game world records. He sets easy and I set legendary, meaning 2 British runners owned both full game world records. Sorry Americans. 5 days later, I once again improved legendary, dropping a further 2 minutes. It now sitting at a 1:33.57, and would finally have footage of a legendary world record. Some basic route similarities exist on easy runs. Less emphasis currently existed on heavy movement tech. Slide jumps took a backseat to combat and survival. A lot of different routes existed simply to stay alive and minimize risk, while also maintaining as much speed as possible. Of course, we'd see the regular hammer launches that were possible regardless of difficulty, although I was never very good at them. We would see a heavier usage of checkpoint manipulation. Waiting for this checkpoint on Crow's Nest, hoping the brute has invincibility, is the bane of all legendary runners. There are also instances where dying, but doing a fast strat, is overall faster than doing a slow strat and not dying. So sometimes dying is not a bad thing. Playing around certain checkpoints would also be a prominent part of the run. Attempting to get a checkpoint as close to a difficult section as possible would prove useful in many situations in the run. There are a few instances where I purposefully stopped for a checkpoint. Unfortunately, checkpoints often didn't work in our favour. I remember having an old rule, where if I attempt something multiple times, and none of the attempts work, there has to be a point where I'm able to adapt and be able to know backup strats. A lot of early Legendary was adapting to your current situation, and being able to assess what the best approach was. Obviously over time, the necessity to adapt decreases. As runner skill improves and routes optimize, there will always be a fastest route to take. In this instance, I decided against my strat and go for a backup, realizing the enemies were alert on my checkpoint. I had to try something else. A few parts of the run required certain equipment drops that could otherwise lose time, which was a fair amount of RNG. Overall, this run contained 11 deaths, the route was still fairly basic, and not much in terms of actual strats were used. A lot of safety was still being taken at the cost of speed. Nagato and Shifty would go back and forth a few more times through the year, trading easy full game records, ending the year at a solid 1:10.49 held by Nagato. And almost a year to the day, we'd finally see the return of History 100, and to be expected, he returns in a groundbreaking fashion, landing the very first deployable cover launch in an IL, on Legendary of course. Legendary full game was on the cusp of being sub 1 hour 30 minutes, a big barrier to break, a franchise-wide barrier to be broken. No other game at the time was sub 130 on Legendary. Halo CE was second closest, sitting at 131. A race between Halo 3 and CE runners was underway. I would improve covered on Legendary in September 2014, a record I've been grinding on and off for most of the year, featuring History's new Citadel launch. On the 11th of November 2014, the Master Chief Collection releases for the Xbox One, bringing with it a variety of brand new runners. As early as the 15th of November, we saw the first new runner set in world records on the Master Chief Collection. Alien Flow took a liking to Halo, improving the world record 4 times over 8 days. History 100 reclaims his Crow's Nest Legendary run, but I snapped back 14 days later with a 906. Possibly the lowest quality record of all time. I had no way of capturing Xbox One, and the inbuilt streaming service wasn't very good at the time. All in all, 57 submissions over 2014, here's how they looked. January 2015 starts with 3 full game world records. Nagato once again drops easy, and I finally get the sub 130 Legendary, only to immediately be beaten by Araxade the very next day. Araxade hits early Pelican on Sierra. He does not use the Storm out of bounds, and using his newly found box tilt method for the Citadel launch, the standards were slowly beginning to increase. Unfortunately, Halo 3 was not the first sub 130. CE runners were first with the 129.59. 2015 is the year of micro improvements. A lot of records would be set by 1 second at a time. Examples of this would include Halo and the Storm. We welcome another few new runners in early 2015. Hokum King takes a liking to Savo, improving both easy and legendary, and Alien Flow gravitates towards the flood levels, focusing mainly on Floodgate and Halo. As the year goes on, we would see countless new developments and milestones being broken, with the newly found power and ease of deployable cover launching on the Master Chief Collection. Uzi Gorilla first demonstrates the early Phantom rockets in his 555 Storm Easy World Record, which would further be developed by Blaze. Alien Flow breaks the 3-minute barrier on Floodgate on the 12th of March 2015. His smooth hammer launches and flawless DC launches carry the level sub 3 in this historic run. Changing the old Chasm launch to the new Nagato pizza launch method, he jumps off the tripmine mid-air. Alien Flow also sets a 10.05 Halo Easy IL in April, utilising the new discovery of carrying the hammer over to the second half of the level and using it to save time with some nice movements. All throughout the year, Nagato has been chipping away at Easy Full Game. He breaks the sub 110 barrier on the 1st of April 2015, achieving the fabled 69-minute speedrun. A quick look at the run would show it's very similar to Shifty's. The run is just more optimised in terms of player ability. He has the exact same Sierra in terms of strats used, but Nagato's Sierra is 20 seconds faster.
What's it called? The Pelican here comes faster if you clear out all the enemies, you don't clear.
He hits the DC launch on Floodgates. Arc deload, still been a total mystery, is not hitting Nagato's run. He does hit Citadel launches.
Oh my god, did you see how good that was?
And a few more Cortana overlaps.
I can play this level, even on Legendary.
He makes sure to include Chap Special to validate the run.
Jump.
And his Cortana is only 4 seconds behind the IL World Record in this run. The route was mostly similar to Shifty's. There were a couple differences, but it was overall far more optimised. Legendary Welsh runner Danza would make his debut in Halo 3 with an easy Cortana run, demonstrating his ability to find new strats. He is the first to DC launch on level that isn't Floodgate. With 2 DC launches and a knowledge of more time save, it is clear he is a force to be reckoned with. So Araxade returns with an absolutely incredible full game legendary time, beating my final full game world record by 2 minutes and 40 seconds. This run is still done on the 360 version, so the newly discovered DC launch strats were not really viable in this run, so he doesn't go for them. He hits early Pelican again, which is funny because at this time, the easy world record does not go for early Pelican. One of the best examples of how far player skill has come, how smooth Araxade's Snapper Forest is, able to clear most of it without stopping. Taking a much more direct route to the dam, it is evident almost immediately how far the bar was pushed with this run. He would opt for a safer bomb room strat. He uses a wonderful slide and go strategy to blow up the Phantom in the first lake bed in the storm, making the missile pod strategy much more survivable. Some of the riskier strats like Chasm Launch and Floodgate are vetoed, mostly because of the missed checkpoint. Another example of improved player skill is the Dawn Clear on the Arc. Far more difficult than my old methods, but far superior for speed. He also uses some clever marine abuse tech to give himself more ammo. Opting for the safe spy fight on Halo, claiming over 4 minutes of deaths between Crow's Nest and Covenant. The runs are improving rapidly, but with clear improvements still to be made. Minimizing deaths and executing a clean run made the runner start to consider how viable a sub 120 runner actually is. The Blaze JP makes a strong introduction to Halo 3, taking my Storm Legendary record, and shortly after, taking the Arc Legendary, arguably the hardest level in the game. With his new Dawn Clear strats, it demonstrates his ability to revolutionize and find new strats. He also invents what I dubbed the Blaze Boost, a discovery he comes up with during his Easy Storm grind. He would also improve Storm Easy 4 times over 2015, dropping it to a 548. Just 2 days after Blaze sets his Arc Ledge record, another new British runner, Dead Rain, comes in with multiple improvements, dropping Arc to a 13-minute flat. He would also swoop up my Covenant Ledge record, proving immediately to be a formidable runner of the Legendary category, taking both of the hardest ILs in the game back-to-back just a few days apart. Now, I know you're probably all sitting there wondering why History 100 had no full game submissions yet. I'm fairly convinced he was a superhuman designed purely to speedrun Halo 3. But I can assure you, he hadn't even warmed up yet. 1 day after Dead Rain sets his Covenant time, History 100 submits his first Legendary full game world record. Unfortunately, with the deletion of History's Twitch and YouTube, the video no longer has footage. But don't worry, we're only at the tip of the History iceberg. A week after History's full game submission, Danza once again shows his further expertise of Halo 3, setting a new easy arc record. While Nagato was the first to hit deload in an arc record, Danza's showcases the best possible outcome of the deload. He also shows a new strategy to load the Pelican in faster by waiting for a load by the Scarab exploding. Unfortunately, at this time, the deload was still mostly a mystery for how to hit or make consistent, which made grinding arc a bit of a dice roll. And since we're on the topic of mysteries, a mystery exists around this next record. So Dead Rain continues to grind out Covenant Legendary, uploading an 11:36 on the 22nd of September 2015. Now, this is where things get a bit unsure. Word of a faster History record floats around, but without actual evidence, it is hard to say for sure. A rumoured 11:24 existed. History, obviously proving his ability to be a top runner, it's likely this time was real. But since there's no evidence of this run ever existing, I'm going to attribute this record to Dead Rain for now. A very small minor difference worth noting is that for some reason, the Scarabs on MCC died in 2 hits, but 1 on the 360. This run was incredibly clean, hitting solid hammer launches throughout. As 2015 comes to a close, History drops a full game time a further 3 times, bringing the record down to an amazing 1:21:49. This run does not have footage, however, his previous record at 1:22:26 does. Movement in this run still isn't as imperative as easy, but it's slowly becoming more appropriate and relevant. So this run really demonstrates an advanced understanding of Halo 3. It's time to get technical. Halo 3 has a hidden mechanic known as weapon scariness, meaning some weapons will be scarier to enemies than others. A brute shot has a scariness value of 12, which is why History grabs it at the start of Sierra. He uses it to get by difficult areas by having Grunt cower in fear instead of shoot at him. And here is a graph of weapon scariness. If anyone's ever curious if the vehicle horn serve any in-game purpose at all, they carry a scariness factor. History would hammer launch through Cortana moments, squeezing out seconds here and there, and another usage of the scariness factor we demonstrate in the Savo. He scares the Grunt out of the shade by shooting at it. One of the biggest advancements as time went on, with runners improving, was relying a lot less on checkpoints. Playing around checkpoints and checkpoint manipulation would become less and less frequent as the runs improved. There were still a few instances of this, but they were becoming far fewer as time went on. We would see History intentionally delaying this checkpoint and sit in the corner to manipulate this checkpoint, which lets him try this risky DC launch. An absolutely remarkable floodgate. Despite the setback of the 360 version of Halo 3 being far harder for consistent DC launches, this run is absolutely unbelievable. Instead of charging the Mongoose over the hill, History has a change of heart. Instead, he decides to take the Prowler, proving safer, but almost equally as fast as the Mongoose. This run still features a few unfortunate deaths, but significantly smoother than previous runs. One of the biggest differences this run features is an optimized spy fight. He actually fights it instead of standing with Johnson and using laser from a distance. History also attempts to optimize the spark fight, shooting spark as early as possible, which is interesting because this small optimization was not used in any IL at the time. History showed he has a good mind for optimization and constantly demonstrated his ability to revolutionize the run. His best ability at the time though was his consistency. His runs had very few consequential deaths while still maintaining world record pace. And 2015 would end with 2 more history world records, the Arc Legendary in 1244 and Storm Legendary in 622. 2015 had 69 total submissions, a lot of 1 second improvements. Twenty 2016 starts with a few noteworthy records. A few small optimizations are implemented in runs. Sierra goes sub 510, really starting to squeeze every available second out, as Danza nails the first IL with Moose Jump. Over the span of 3 days, we see 3 full game world records set in February 2016. Danza sets a 108.36 easy record, only to be beaten by Nagato the next day by 5 seconds. Then History drops another legendary run on the 9th of Feb 2016. But, behind the scenes, Danza had just made the biggest discovery Halo 3 will likely ever see. The controversial DC clip had just been discovered, and the entire community had rallied together to find applications of the trick. Exclusive to the Master Chief Collection version of the game, a couple small applications had already been found, but on the 23rd of Feb 2016, Nagato discovers the Storm Scarab skip, immediately dropping the storm time by 21 seconds to a 5:27. Meanwhile, History 100 was slowly realizing his true power. Utilizing the Spy Fight deload and the newly discovered Spark Fight time save, he drops the Halo Legendary IL by 19 seconds. Mid-March would see another massive milestone broken by the community. Danza gets the first sub-10 Halo easy time. Doing his best to spawn kill the Flood on the Spy Fight, the new knowledge of how to progress the Spy Fight and the conditions to be met. Understanding that the boss Flood per wave is the top priority to advancing the waves. He is constantly on the lookout for the Flood with the power weapon. Here are the scripts Danza pulled to see exactly how to progress the Spy Fight. Knowing when and how to trigger the deload for the last remaining Flood.
Not for long. I'm tracking it.
Danza also has the second door open before the Spark Fight.
Who is victim and who is foe?
It's trying to rebuild itself on.
He hits the fast Spark Fight and gets the early laser.
You do not deserve this ring.
Takes the hammer into the second half of the level. It's some nice slides outside.
Is on the other side.
And uses the hammer to carry himself to the Warthog faster.
There, Johnson's Warthog.
A nice smooth Warthog run to end the level in a 9:56. The most impressive part about this run is Danza still acknowledging further time save being possible, unfortunately flipping in the Warthog drive. This now makes the community realize that there remains only 2 easy ILs that are above 10 minutes, Arc and Covenant. So over the next few months, the community attempts to push these 2 down. 43 days after Danza gets the sub 10 Halo, Danza gets the first sub 10 Arc. Skipping the need for equipment on the box jump at the start.
Wait. Oh,
he hits the God Deload at Spark Door. This still been a dice roll at the time.
What the hell? Okay, let's just not joke. That makes no sense. It makes no sense. It's a full fucking deload.
He takes the chopper through the wall and does the superior scarab board. Gets the early load on the Pelican and ascends the spire. Once inside, has some nice movements and has a clean camo fight. For an absolutely incredible end fight. 2 great snipes on 2 jackals and an explosive ending to celebrate. Beating his previous record by 16 seconds.
Oh my god! Holy shit! This has got to be it. I knew that was fast. That was fast as hell. That was so fast. Fuck, 953. 952.
There stands only one level between the entire Halo 3 community and sub 10 for All Easy ILs. The Mibulus and Dead Rain have been hard at work attempting to push the Covenant down. The Covenant sitting just 7 seconds off being sub 10 in April 2016. On the 8th of May 2016, the Mibulus blows up Discord. He had just been live streaming at 300 bit rates. The quality is straight out of 1997, but the community-wide barrier had finally fallen. Analysing the 3 pixels on the screen shows us absolutely nothing. I will, however, play one clip, and nothing more needs to be said.
I'm a thief, but what I steal...
Perfect final launch. Perfect final launch. Perfect final launch. We've done it, lads! Give me that 947! Get in there, yes!
Okay, in all seriousness, this run is excellent. Mibulus, knowing exactly how many enemies need to be killed in the first wave to spawn the second wave by the Pelican just in time to spawn kill them all with the laser. Hitting a 29-second beach clear, with the sub 30 beach clear being phenomenal. He hits a nice equipment jump to the first tower button to prevent the box being knocked over, setting up for a return hammer launch on the way out. He gets a wonderful triple laser kill lineup for a super clean clear, skipping the invincibility pickup, risky, but it works, and a nice exit launch to the Warthog. There is another grenade jump up to the third tower button using Dead Rain's grenade setup, which is slightly risky without invincibility. He kills exactly 8 drones, going up the tower, prompting the despawn, keeping him alive. A nice third tower clear with a 5-turn button press, Mibulus acknowledging that a faster button press is possible with a faster beach clear and a better parked Warthog outside the first tower. Solid drive in to the Hornet with minimal fishtailing. Fast kills on the Scarab.
Really nice fast kill on this first Scarab. That's the fastest way to take out that first Scarab.
And he also hits the Arbiter kill for the dialogue skip, which can be difficult because the Arbiter likes to wander. 8:15 into the Citadel, 11 seconds ahead of Dead Rain. Solid hammer launch into the Chieftain kill for the new hammer pickup.
I am absolutely atrocious at that Citadel launch. I'm so happy I got it first time, and without invincibility as well. 15 or 16, one of them.
Mib special.
Really quite far ahead, like, okay, even though I get...
And as you just saw, fantastic return launches to hit the 947. All Halo 3 easy times were now sub 10, but with a new goal in sight. The sum of all ILs currently sitting at 1 hour and 16 seconds. The push for sub 1 hour of all ILs was now the goal. I want to quickly clarify and say I mean all easy ILs, not all ILs total, only easy.
It's going to be too good a time if I don't go with it. I went with it, it went off very well.
A couple small records are set over the next few months, inching ever closer to the goal. And on the 18th of August 2016, The sum of ILs sits at exactly 1 hour. The Storm also sitting at 5:01. Now Blaze had been hard at work on the Storm grind over the past few months, ever since Nagato found the Storm Scarab skip. Blaze had been in the lab working out every possible time save he can find, coming up with a crazy amount of new strats. I don't think I could ever do justice on all the micro improvements he found himself, but I'll cover the main ones. The first minute of this level is mostly on a timer that you can't really speed up, meaning this first door will always open around the 59-second mark on the timer. The first lake bed requiring a certain kill quota, Blaze does his best to quickly hit that quota and move on to the second lake bed, dropping into the second lake bed and quickly killing the AA Wraith, but more importantly, picking up a deployable cover. He damages the first Phantom with his rocket lineup and finishes it off with a missile pod. And killing both Phantoms in the second wave to hit the load as early as possible, since the load is tied to the Phantoms either despawn or dying. He uses his health bar to line up his DC clip. He hits the clip first try, adding in a few more of his patented blaze boosts, and doing his best to keep his lines perfect through the warehouse. Shooting the AA gun from a distance, and doing this, he lands the 459 on the 26th of August 2016. Even going as far as acknowledging he knows he can save 2 more seconds down to a 457.
But I could definitely get a 457 with a faster second lake bed wave, that's for sure.
This run was monumental for 2 reasons. It was the first to break the 5-minute barrier on the Storm, but it also pushes the community-wide sum of ILs down to sub 1 hour, now sitting at 59.58. The community would take a calm, collective, well-deserved break over the rest of 2016. A couple more records are set, but it does slow down. History drops another new legendary full game record, just above the massive milestone of being sub 120, sitting at 1:20.09. Meanwhile, long-time trigger, but relatively new to the speedrunning scene, Hark makes his debut in the speedrunning. At the very end of the year, after a few hard weeks of grinding, he drops Floodgate sub 250 on Legendary. There were 42 submissions over 2016, but quite a year in terms of total submissions compared to 2015, but far greater in terms of impact for the future and milestones being broken. Okay, before I move on to 2017, there is something I want to talk about. Amongst the giant push for the sub 1 sum of ILs goal, Dead Rain was sitting on a 12:04 Arc Legendary, 40 seconds faster than the previous world record. He claims he didn't release the video because he wasn't happy with the time and wanted to improve it, which never happened. He eventually released the video 393 days after setting the record, so I'm going to count it as being set in 2017. 2017 would start with a couple small records, but we'd welcome new runner Sasquatch with a 5:05 Sierra world record. Immediately showed his ability to refine movements and showcasing the newer moose jump method. We don't have footage of this record anymore, but I still have footage from a previous video of his 5:08 where he hits it. February, we would see the first sub 107 easy full game record by Danza, his final world record, a fantastic run, and a great milestone broken. Danza's run will be one of the first to really attempt to squeeze out every available second, and with a heavy emphasis on movement outside of just Sierra. Cleverly utilising some altered blaze boosts by jumping and combining the truck explosion for further distance and more speed. A clever Cortana skip on Crow's Nest. He hits Salvo Liftless, previously believed to be an IO only strat due to its difficulty and precision, but more importantly, the time lost if you miss it. Difficulty of runs in this era boiled down to the Storm and the Arc. The Storm requiring a DC pickup, an RNG drop that sometimes would just never happen, and then requiring a fast DC clip. I remember myself grinding the Storm Scarab skip for over 40 minutes before hitting it once, so there was an extremely hard trick gating most runs. Fortunately, in this run, Danza has everything lined up perfectly to attempt the Scarab skip, which he hits 4th try. The Floodgate DC launch now being pretty common in full game, Danza also hits 4th try. Now, the second major roadblock in the run, the Arc. Danza, being the world record holder for the Arc, Felt pretty comfortable running this level. Unfortunately, with the Spark Door Delo still being mostly a dice roll, it was up to randomness to decide whether or not it was in Dance's favour today. Driving perfectly up to the door, making sure to avoid splattering any enemies, hoping it hits the criteria for the overload to happen. He rounds the corner and watches for the Wraith to drop. Unfortunately this run, both Wraiths spawn, meaning he missed the deload entirely. Despite the arc setback, he powers onto the Covenant, knowing the worst is mostly behind him. He has a clean Covenant, good launches throughout, and reaches Cortana. Cortana being Dance's favourite level, and his affinity for it, he breezes through the level. Hitting 2 DC launches, and clearing the level in 6:48. He reaches Halo on record pace. Nervous, he takes a steady approach to Halo. Not going for anything too risky in hopes to secure the record. Spawn killing the Flood during the Spy fight. He does not go for the auto turret jump during the Spark fight. Taking the Hammer to the second half of the level.
I'm sorry, Spark. But come.
And cleanly making his way to the Warthog. With the clean Warthog run, he lands his final full game record, 1 hour, 6 minutes, and 45 seconds on the 3rd of Feb 2017. Danza acknowledging the run could go faster if consistent arc deload were found, or a faster version of the Covenant Scarab skip were to be found. A current method existed, found by Danza himself, but required a lengthy setup that didn't save time. Yet. Later that month, new French runner ProKiller59 would clean up Alien Flow's Halo IL. With a slightly earlier spark shot and some nicer movement in the outside section, he reaches the Warthog drive slightly ahead of Alien Flow. A clean drive with the newly found Wilzor strat, he drops the record by 7 seconds. Over a year since his discovery, the drone door skip being the first ever speedrun application found by DC Clipping, Sasquatch would set his first Crow's World Record at 7:45 on the 31st of March 2017 using this skip, further pushing the application of DC clips throughout the run. This run starts the era of the community slowly beginning to implement this trick far more heavily throughout the run. Unfortunately, the only footage we have of this run is from my old video. History 100, now reaching maximum power, starts to unleash his strongest records ever. Unfortunately, no video of his 1040 Halo remains. I'm 99% sure it is the only record to ever hit the first roundabout skip, which remains true even today. Hark, being a legendary tricker, finds a new DC clip on Floodgates, dropping the record by 8 seconds on easy and 5 on legendary. Fast forward into August 2017. While testing Danza's Citadel clip setup, but attempting to skip the invincibility requirements, Hark is throwing himself at the wall over and over, hoping to find a version of the skip that saves time. Testing with angles, and using lineups to try to find a way to cushion the impact on the other side, hoping to make it viable for runs. He is successful. After several IL attempts spanning multiple days, he's able to dethrone Mibulus by 1 second. Then, a few days later, further improving the time from 9:46 to 9:22, now being the 4th level to feature a DC clip in a world record. Crows, Storm, Floodgates, and now the Covenant. Around July, the community had unofficially begun a project to beat the remaining History 100 times, mostly in order to make HaloRuns.com accurate, since for some reason he never submitted his individual level world records, only his full games. So we hired a professional, and his name was Sorix. 2 weeks after Hark sets the 9:22 Covenant, Sorix beats the first History 100 time, beating his 0 by 3 seconds. Playing the start like it was easy, hitting all the slide jumps, he doesn't go for the Phantom skip, and instead ignores the enemies and continues the slide jump past. Landing Moose Jump on Legendary. He doesn't stop once going through the Snapper Forest. Some completely random trivia is that apparently the Japanese version of 0117 would gain movement control 11 frames before the English version. However, this is only exclusive to the original 360 release. Making the gap jump with almost no hesitation and hitting a 3:47 cutscene. Making his way straight to Johnson without going around the back of the building with no equipment to keep him alive. and hit an early Pelican as soon as it flies in. Claiming to have lost approximately 5 seconds of movement, it's still an excellent debut run. Hawk would find a new method of doing the Storm Scarab skip, making the trick infinitely easier and opening up the IL to the original 360 version, removing the DC clip method entirely. Still requiring a DC drop, but making the level far more appealing to optimize, allowing for runners to clip through even earlier and have themselves set up to progress the level at the earliest possible opportunity. Blaze and I would immediately jump on the level and set world records one day apart. He sets easy, I set legendary. Unfortunately, at this time, I didn't know exactly how early you could progress the level after the clip. So while setting the legendary world record, I lose about 5 seconds. And shooting the AA gun late, but setting my final world record ever. Knocking another history time off the leaderboard. Sorix is going to hate me for this next part, but I'm going to share this anyway. Dubbed the most hilarious world record of the modern era, refusing to submit this run to HaloRuns. It's important we have a look and find out exactly why. It has absolutely phenomenal movement throughout. Refusing to take the tank, zooms by everyone in the Ghost, a strategy that had eluded the community for years. The biggest arc theoretical time save was finding a way to skip the tank, which Sorix does in impeccable fashion. Cleverly, using the scariness factor of the Furod shot to scare the grunts in the Ghost to stop them shooting at him. A new spark door clear without the tank. He blows up the Phantom and hijacks the Wraith to finish the clear. Having the door open at 6:35, being 7 seconds ahead of history, taking the tank. He'd finished the level in 11:43 and beats history by 5 seconds. 7 months after Dance's full game run, Fallen Ultima would drop the time by 7 seconds, with a riskier Halo hitting the auto turret jump that Dancer missed and saving exactly 30 seconds over the level. But the main attraction would occur one October evening. Hawk and Fallen Ultima load up Halo 3 in a friendly race. Being 20 seconds behind leaving the arc, Fallen Ultima decides to just throw the run and attempt Citadel clip. Check this out.
If I get it first attempt, it's not going to happen, but if I get it, then I could still PV, or I could still get full game world record. It's not going to happen. There's no way. I got this. Oh my... There's no way. There's no way. There's no way. There's no way.
Concentrate your fire on number 2.
I am so scared right now.
You can almost see the realization of what had happened just register, and the nerves kick in. He would claw the run back from the dead, and get a new world record with this run. Gold in Covenant and Cortana, set on a solid 106.17. The only full game world record to ever be set in a race. Also the only full game world record to ever feature this version of Citadel clip. Definitely one of the hypest runs of all time. Sorix would quickly improve his arc record with the new tankless strategy found by Boar, having a much cleaner arc and dropping it down to an 11:01. With a really nice kill on the Phantom at the Spark Door. He finishes up the clear by taking the Wraith and finishing up the remaining enemies. Ark would continue to solidify his status as a legendary tricker by finding yet another DC clip. Known by many names amongst the community, but most call it one of the following: Silo clip, Cave clip, Bunker bump, the end of most speedruns. It was a big discovery. Hark and Sasquatch further dropping Crow's Nest down to a 7:33 on easy. 2017 coming to a close, but still the strong records continue to roll in. ProKiller59 being the first person to individually hold sub 10 in All Easy ILs would set a world record shortly after Fallen Ultima, only to be quickly beaten by Hark. This would start a rivalry spanning multiple years, both runners going back and forth trading world records. We are looking at a battle of the titans, people. Park vs Pro Killer 59. Park's 105.22 would feature his newly found silo clip and the newer version of the Storm Scarab skip using the vehicle. History 100 would drop his penultimate full game legendary world record on the 16th of December 2017, hitting the appropriately timed 1:17:55. He would set one more record after this at 1:17:46, but with no footage of that particular run, I'm going to break this one down for you all. Continuing his trend of running on the 360 version of the game, it would mean all the newer DC tech wouldn't really be viable for him. The early game would be pretty standard with what we'd come to expect from history runs. Most of the changes start from the Storm. He utilises the new Scarab skip method with the vehicle and deployable cover. He has an unfortunate death at the end of the Storm. The double DC launch on Floodgates. And he actually abandons his old Prowler strat to go back to the Mongoose. He would use Danza's newly found tank section optimization. He did some triggers in the Ghost and teleport the tanks ahead. He's able to save some time on the tank clear. It was not known why he wasn't doing the Ghost out of bounds at this point. Since a lack of communication of history, it is unclear if he wasn't aware of the strat or simply chose not to use it. He also uses my Sentinel Beam strats for the final inside section, making the camo fight slightly easier. He also shows off the new AA Wraith beach clear strats on the Covenant. Since the Covenant beach fight was difficult to do fast, runners found it's possible to match a fast beach clear by simply hijacking the AA Wraith and driving to the first tower. Even honouring the MIB special, this run is incredible. History 100's impact, legacy, and revolutionary gameplay would, in my opinion, qualify him for one of the greatest Halo 3 runners of all time. Being a trailblazer in 2012, remaining ahead of the competition the entire time, having such a long-lasting impact on the game. His legacy is hard to ignore. His skill, gameplay, consistency would put him far ahead of his competition of his era. Unfortunately, with the advancement of the run and the reliance of the Master Chief Collection version of the game slowly being a requirement to speedrun on, he did start to fall behind the times, holding the full game world record for 933 days, improving it 9 times, and dropping 7 minutes, entirely uncontested. History 100 will always go down as the unsung hero of the game, bringing it back from the brink during the darkest era of Halo 3. But the story doesn't end there. In fact, it's only just beginning. Sorix would end 2017 by dropping my Storm record by 5 seconds. He also sets an 11:27 Covenant Legendary, but that still doesn't beat the apparent 11:24 time by history, set in 2015. Ending 2017, here are all the world records. Pro Killer 59 would set a 9:44 Arc IL world record in his 105.03 world record full game, getting the God deload and playing the rest of the level perfectly. So we're now starting to enter territory in certain levels where no new strats are being developed, yet levels will get faster and faster. The best example of this would be Sarville Highway. The record over the years will continue to drop, but there's not really been any new strats for a while. Players just improve and optimize things further and further. This Arc record is a good example of this situation. There are no new strats from Dante's 952, just further optimization. 2 days after Pro Killer's 105.03 easy world record, Storix would PB the legendary full game category by 5 minutes, down to 1:15:12, a new world record. Similar to History's run, his first 3 levels are merely seconds apart from History. Storix has a cleaner Storm, saving a minute of History, doesn't die at the end. Sorix has a revertless Floodgate, more time save over History, who took a few attempts to land the DC launches. Sorix does unfortunately have 2 deaths at the end of the arc, meaning his arc is slower than History's, but still ahead overall, but a much cleaner Covenant. So History dies a few times, leaving the 3rd tower. Sorix's Covenant is 1 minute 17 seconds faster than History's, an outstanding 11:38 in a full game run. Sorix would dethrone History 100. His reign was over. Well, his full game reign was over. It's now at the point where a single death is able to make or break a world record. And for some reason, immediately after Sorix sets his world record, the very next day, History would private his YouTube and delete his Twitch account. We don't know why. Luckily, a few mirrors of his runs exist, and his Nico account is still active, but it's a huge disappointment to lose most of his content. Sorix and ProKiller59 both improve Covenants. Sorix drops Legendary sub 11, and ProKiller59 drops Easy sub 9. 2 huge milestones, with a large discovery that helps both runs. The discovery of diagonal flying in the Hornet being 20% faster than flying straight. With History discovering that diagonal movement through Cortana moments was faster, the community tested other applications, and it was found that flying in the Hornet also falls under this rule. Hark would break the 105 barrier full game with a 104.52, featuring a new version of the Covenant Citadel clip, which when you think about it, makes far more sense. He instead clips through the front door, which is closer, and the door is easier to clip through. This version of the Citadel clip currently did not feature in the ILs. This 104.52 would feature both Crow's Nest Silo clip and Covenant Citadel clip in a run. This run also featured the new Sleepless Third roundabout skip on Halo, which hadn't even been hit in an IL yet. Hart pulls off these difficult strats in full game before they even exist in ILs. A few days after the 104.52, Hart drops Storm even further to a 449. With a newer version of the Storm Scarab skip, skipping the requirement for a DC entirely, simply requiring a precise lineup. He instead keeps a DC for a DC launch at the end, cutting even more time off the level. One of my favourite Halo 3 trends at this point is when a level seems almost maxed out, someone always finds a way to improve it even further. At this point, 2018 feels like a Hark feature-length movie, because this next groundbreaking trick is also discovered by Hark, taking his previous silo clip and moving it to a better spot on Crow's Nest, saving even more time, dropping the record to a 707, then quickly improved to 705 by Sasquatch. All these Hark moments, and we're only at April 2018. Throughout the rest of 2018, Sorix would continue his total domination of Legendary, slowly taking or improving most of the ILs. He would take Halo, beating History's final time. Now, looking at the current milestone to be broken, sub 11 on all Legendary ILs. Halo was beaten by History, and Sorix had just beaten the Covenant, with Arc being the final roadblock to his community-wide goal. Arc also sitting at just an 11:01, meaning we'd only need to see a 2-second improvement. On the 20th of August 2018, Sorix would break the milestone and submit a 10:53 Arc Legendary. Comparing to his previous record, he saves 5 seconds with a cleaner Spark Door fight, then saving a few more seconds at Cambo fight with a cleaner ending to drop the time by 8 seconds. He does lose a bit of time over getting the Ghost out of bounds, but it's still a good enough run to PB and sub 11. Crow's Legendary would drop to an 8:38 by Sorix, then 8:35 by Sasquatch, using the addition of the newest location for the silo, Cave Clip, but not using Drone Door Clip, simply because the drones would melt you on Legendary. Now, ProKiller59 would end 2018 in the lead in the full game rivalry of Hark, submitting a 1:04.29 on the 21st of December 2018. Now this is a really interesting run, because it lands an extremely fast 7:49 Crow's Nest without any DC clips, no drone clip or cave clip. The rest of the levels were pretty similar to Hark. ProKiller does hit the Citadel clip in the Covenant, but Cortana is where most of the time save comes, saving 45 seconds on Hark's Cortana. Hark had a small moment in his full game run where accidentally went the wrong way on Cortana.
Oh, I did it. Oh my god. I did hit it, right? Wait.
I don't know. I haven't seen
Oh, I didn't hit it. Never mind.
Alright, so we got through most of the biggest records of 2018. What an incredible year. A part of me wanted to cover every record set this year because there were so many noteworthy things happening. But here's how submitters looked in 2018. Immediately out the gate in January 2019, ProKiller59 lands another Storm Easy World record, hitting a sideways DC launch at the end to speed up the White House section even further. Storix would drop a 1:14.06 legendary world record on a random D-Rust run. Fairly consistent theme in Halo. He is overall faster on nearly every single level, with cleaner play throughout. He has a bit of time loss compared with 1:15.12 on the Covenant in Halo, but racing an 11:38 Covenant in a full game run at the time would be extremely difficult. This run is also remarkable since he's still on the original 360 version, not being able to do much of the DC tech outside of the launches on Floodgate, where Halo 3 easy full game world records were hitting multiple DC clips by this point. This run would also remain deathless until the attempts of Floodgate DC launches, and even then, those deaths were a couple seconds each. Legendary would still be on the 360, and not hitting much in terms of advanced DC tech at this point. Although, with the difference in strats, not many DC clips are realistically viable on Legendary anyway. If there was an award, the most impactful discovery in 2019, it would go to ProKiller59. For years, the Arc deload eluded the community. I do want to quickly clarify that it's technically an overload. It's just the community wrongly named it a deload, and it sounds cool to say Sparkload deload. It just sort of stuck. Theories arose and swiftly died. It was the biggest head scratcher, possibly, in the entire Halo 3 history. It eluded the community since March 2014. That was until 2019. ProKiller59 uploaded a video boasting a better deload setup. The missing piece of the puzzle had been found. We simply had to murder even more Marines. This setup would raise consistency from approximately 10% to a 90% God deload setup, making optimization of the Arc infinitely more appealing and accessible, proven by the multiple new records that would follow. By the end of 2019, Storix would hold the record on easy, with a 932, an absolutely insane dawn clear at 247, 5 seconds faster than ProKiller's 252, with the relatively new discovery that looking into the sky would spawn dawn as early as possible. Okay, this is the perfect time to explain the importance of the Arc deload, written in this Discord post. We can see exactly the criteria required to hit the trigger for the door to begin to open. With less enemies in the area, the criteria for this condition is met much faster and easier. Storix would also continue his domination, dropping the Covenant easy using the same Citadel clip method, but this time without killing the Scarab by the checkpoint, dubbed YOLO clip by the community. Alright, approaching the end of 2019, ProKiller59 would put the nail on the coffin in the Battle of the Titans. 103.40 would be the world record. Or would it? On the 30th of December 2019, Storix would swoop in and claim the easy full game world record at 103.22, holding both full game world records, something not done since Araxade in early 2014. Alright, so let's take a look at the 103.22 and see exactly where the full game run stands. This run would also mark Storix's first full game world record on the Master Chief Collection. Abandoning the 360 version of the game allowed him to potentially do all the advanced DC tech. Sierra being the typical heavy movement level and attempting to kill all the enemies at the dam as fast as possible. He does hit Moose Jump and continues the rest of the level, slide jumping his way through, a 507 Sierra. He does the backwards DC launch down the drone tunnel instead of the Great Launch. He does not do Bunker Bump, landed a 747 Crow's Nest. Salvo Liftless is hit first try. He uses Blaze's method of killing the first Phantom in the second lake bed, and a missile pod for the second. The tricks we'd come to expect, like Storm, Scarab, Skip, are now used in every run going forwards. He lands a sideways DC Storm ending, has an unfortunate splatter on Floodgate, second try on the first DC launch, and actually he misses the second DC launch. With the 250 Dawn clear, only 3 seconds slower than his IL world record. Using ProKiller's deload setup, he hits God deload. Covenant being a level that hadn't really seen much innovation recently, he uses the new diagonal fly-in and grabs the DC entering the third tower. Now, it is cool to have Citadel clip in a run, but I've seen a lot of runs die to a DC not drop in, meaning runners are at the mercy of further RNG. Anyway, he kills the Scarab and gets the first try Citadel clip. An incredibly clean ending to the Covenant, hitting all return launches. He hit some really nice clean hammer launches and DC launches on Cortana, not quite getting the DC launch Cortana moment overlap at the start, but still getting some distance on the launch. A solid reactor room launch into a DC launch, clean return after reactor room for a 627 Cortana. There is now a new setup for the Johnson dialogue skip, also meaning when the fight is over, he teleports inside and prompts the first door to open early, saving time. Down by Danza and first using Fallen Ultima's 938 Easy IL. He does the fast spark fight with the auto turret jump and the early laser. Not going for the scary Sleepless Third, but he does hit Wheels All Special to claim the world record in 103.22. A fantastic run. It's becoming increasingly clear that Sorix is a force to be reckoned with, coming in fast and being able to dethrone history, then fly ahead of the competition by setting a flurry of strong world records that would stand for years, being the first to hold sub 11 on All Legendary ILs. I remember when he started, and thinking to myself how good he would be, but I never realised he'd be this good. Anyway, closing out 2019, here are all the world records. Another very strong year, with many noteworthy records being set. '20 would start off pretty slow. We would see the final two world records set by ProKiller59. He sets a new Arc and Cortana world record. He would do yet another DC launch, skipping the Mongoose driving the Arc. He instead launches straight to the Ghost. He actually launches a little too far. ProKiller's contribution to the game was incredible. Unfortunately, we never got the pleasure of seeing him stream. 2020 will continue with a couple more records dropping, but there is a very good reason for this. On the 1st of April 2020, the Halo 3 community were able to finally release Halo 3 Done Segmented, a project they've been hard at work on behind the scenes since 2017, hitting many strats deemed too hard to do in a regular speedrun setting. This run is sub 1 hour on Legendary. The project itself was first announced by Knockyard in the high-speed Halo days. It went through many iterations and was picked up and dropped many times over the years, with a big final push to get it finished in 2020. It would finally be finished April 1st, and I highly suggest you all watch it. A couple more records dropped mid-2020, but the biggest event of the year was the PC release, allowing runners the precision of a keyboard and mouse, but more importantly, the tools that were able to be made. A checkpoint manager and trainer allowed for runners to use custom checkpoints to practice, with Halo 3's natural checkpoint system being notoriously bad. I want to now introduce you to someone. I want you all to really understand this guy is pretty good at Halo. Hopefully, you get the idea. Being an enigma to the community, with almost no online presence in terms of streaming or being a Discord user. Nails would come through and drop several new world records in 2020, but the biggest record was set on the 13th anniversary of Halo 3's release. He sets a full game easy run in 102.34 and starts the run with a world record of 453 Sierra. This run features absolutely zero DC clips. No bunker bump, no Citadel clip. Sierra now featured the optimized dam fights, jumping across the bridge to get to Johnson faster, and the knowledge that you only need to kill the enemies past a certain path. I am going to take this opportunity to attempt to explain the dam fight, since it's another mystery that eluded the community for a while. It was understood that killing enemies made the Pelican spawn in faster. That was the extent of the understanding for years. Danza put in a ton of work into figuring out the specifics of the Sierra Dam clear, and frankly, I don't understand a lot of it. But the gist of the clear requires you to kill only the enemies who are tasked to navigate to the dam after Johnson has been freed. So from there, it was a process of working out exactly which enemies have this task and which don't, which would be all the enemies listed here. And by this point in the game's history, this had been worked out. Anyway, back to the run. He changes the backwards DC to a sideways DC launch down the drone tunnel, because Halo 3 PC launched with a changed leg model, changing how DC launches worked. Continuing the trend of sideways DC launches, he hits the sideways in the Storm Warehouse. To combat the new leg model change, runners would slightly alter the Floodgate DC launch to be done off the railing, having to abandon the second DC launch on Floodgate to revert back to the pizza launch. The changes with the new PC release slightly harm the speedrun overall. He has a clean end clear on the Arc, nodding in game to acknowledge it went well. He goes a little wide on the first tower ascent, which I thought was to keep the box upright for the return launch, but he doesn't go for it. Instead of going for the Citadel clip, he uses the DC for a launch at the end of Citadel. He also adds another sideways DC launch on Cortana, which first featured in his 602 Easy World Record. Sprinkled through the run is also the usage of combining grenades with hammer launches, which would start a trend of runners attempting to squeeze out even more time. He also decides to skip the sleepless third roundabout skip, but hitting Will's special, finishing the world record in 102.34. Sorix would improve Covenant Legendary to a 10.36, his first PB on keyboard and mouse. Hijacking the AA Wraith in a speedy manner, skipping the beach fight. Here in the top of the first tower, with a well-placed power drain and a single grenade. He baits the Chieftain over for a back smack.
It's the wrong attack, bro.
Unfortunately, the Chieftain drops a flare. Sorix instead grabs a regen, and doesn't let the lack of invincibility stop him doing the launch. He has a bit of trouble on the third tower clear.
Sucky aim.
A couple reverts on the Citadel launch setup.
Does he always stay? What am I doing? Oh my
I should quickly clarify that the game timer is paused while the black bars are on screen.
What I mean. And now they should...
So he didn't lose much time here at all. A fantastic launch. A launch like that would mostly nullify the usage of camo. Obviously camo is there for safety on Legendary, meaning runners do not go for the Citadel clip. A good return launch, almost clearing the final room. Hitting the final box launch at the end, dropping the record by 13 seconds.
Wow, that's even worse than the current record. Oh, I just jumped.
Sorix also drops Arc Easy to 9.15, further displaying the advantages of mouse and keyboard, allowing for much smoother vehicle driving, cleaner aim, and as Bohr puts it, nerdier movement. 2020 would end with Sorix's first competitor to the Legendary full game category. Sorix, having held the record for 1,047 days, 114 more days in history hold the record for, having his record beaten by 11 seconds. Rocats, coming from Halo 2, would set a 1:13.55 on December 13th, 2020, just 42 days after his Halo 2 MCC full game Easy World record. The drone tunnel launch doesn't go too well for Rocats. Keeping in tradition of all Legendary runners using a grav lift for the bridge on Savo. He has an extremely close call on Storm, almost being killed by Marine, and with DC launches still being rather broken, he does not do the second DC on Floodgate. There are 4 deaths towards the end of the arc, losing quite a bit of time, but the run was deathless up till this moment. A scary first tower clear, featuring a nice teleporting brute. There's an unfortunate death at the top of the third tower to a weird missed backsmack on the Chieftain. An extremely scary reactor room launch on Cortana. He does not get the first early door on Halo, but he does get the second. Not doing the auto turret jump on Halo, finishing the run with Will's special to land his first full game record in Halo 3. Despite some of the setbacks, he still sets a new world record, and I can assure you, he would not stop there. It isn't often someone's first world record in a game is a full game category. Most people start by setting at least an IL or 2 first. This has only ever been achieved by Oraxaden or Thurslow back in 2013, and Fallen Ultima in 2017. Their first world records being in the full game category. Rocats definitely coming into Halo 3 with a very strong first impression. In 2020, there was only 17 new records, 6 from Sorix and 6 from Nails. Entering 2021, we will now begin to see some of Halo 3's oldest but current world records. At least current, as I'm making and hopefully publishing this video. In the time it's taken me to even reach this point of making the video, a handful of records have been set, extending the video. Thanks, Nails. Alright, I'm going to be slightly biased here, but 2021 starts off with one of my favourite records of all time. This run is absolutely phenomenal. featuring one of my favourite tricks. Sorix would drop an insane minute barrier broken by beating Crow's Nest easy in 6:49 on the 14th of January 2021, featuring not one, not two, but 3 DC tricks. He first of all clips through the drone door with the backwards lineup. Reverting back to the Great Launch for the tunnel, he instead finds a new usage for the DC. Clearing the gap, skipping the barracks. He now demonstrates a segmented strategy, skipping the elevator ride with a vertical DC launch up the shaft. I'm a sucker for small optimizations and movements, but how he clears this hallway with the trip mine boost is amazing. Gets a nice angle redirect with the pipe for this launch and carries some momentum with hammer swings. Again, ending the run with the world famous bunker bump.
Yes! Yes! Oh my fucking god.
His reaction tells all. It's always an absolutely amazing accomplishment when a previously deemed segmented strategy is implemented in a record, which is something we'll start to see a lot more of. Continuing the trend of Sorix's absolute domination of Halo 3, a trend I'm sure most of you are very familiar with by now. Sorix would take back his full game easy record from Nails just 3 days after his Crow 6:49. Sorix would break yet another minute milestone, bringing Halo 3 down to a 1:01:58 easy full game time. Yet another run without featuring a single DC clip. This run would feature a new trick of change in FPS, which Sorix explains nicely here. The rate at which you decelerate into and accelerate out of Cortana moments depends on frame rate. This is used a couple times through the run, mainly Cortana and Floodgates. This run would also feature one of the best Covenant endings I've ever seen.
Good choice.
This run would also begin talks of how viable a sub-1 alpha game would be.
That's the best Covey ever, probably, with no strats. Which is hilarious.
Only 84 days after Rocat sets his full game legendary world record, he would drop a further 48 seconds, down to 1:13:07. A fairly similar run overall. He saved 20 seconds to his previous Crow's Nest. He does lose 26 seconds on Storm. A rather unfortunate Banshee death sets me back quite a bit. It's not often a Banshee shows this much aggression to chase you down on the missile pod. This time, he takes preventative measures to make sure he does not die in the arc. Armed with the bubble shield means he will not die before the cutscene. And continuing down towards the end of the arc, he gets through Deathless. Gets an 11:26 arc, versus his previous run being 12:52. The rest of the levels are fairly similar to his 1:13:55, but it's now coming down to the serious point where seconds are really starting to matter in Halo 3 Legendary. Especially when small interactions like this with the Marine have a long-lasting effect on the run. You can see his frustration. His Covenant in his record was 2 seconds slower than the one he set in his 1:13:55. We would see well-known montager II_Zoo_III come from Halo 2, and promptly be told to go back to Halo 2 by Sorix. On the 15th of March 2021, Zoo and Sorix both improve Halo Legendary. Zoo gets a 10:30, and Sorix immediately drops it to a 10:22, utilising the FPS change into the Cortana moment to maintain as much momentum as possible through the moment. He gets the second early door and propels himself towards the Warthog, making sure to hold a regen for safety since this is on Legendary. A much harder sleeper's third on Legendary, but he still hits it. Nails would drop Arc Legendary by 23 seconds, saving roughly 10 seconds over Sorix's Dawn clear, overcharging the AA Wraith and using the Ghost to close the distance to them for a quick kill. And he saves a further 3 seconds on the door clear, killing the Hammer Chieftain before he knows what hit him, and clean finish to drop the record to a 10:30. Balance would be restored in the universe on April 2nd, 2021. Sorix would reclaim his legendary full game world record, dropping a 1:12:18, sending Rocat back to Halo 2. Right? By this point in time, the legendary full game route was pretty solidified. Overall, not many new strats to be used throughout the runs going forwards. The new discovery of FPS changing was used throughout this run, where it's worthwhile to save time, still featuring a couple unfortunate deaths.
What the fuck was that launch? Oh my...
And a couple deaths on the arc that would cost him a fairly significant amount of time. Now, remember when I said Sorix got an 11:38 Covenant in a full game run, and how insane that was? Well, in this run, he would get a 10:52, only 22 seconds behind the IL world record, having an incredibly close call with the Chieftain in the third tower, ending Covenant with an extremely nice final return launch, during the final room and making it all the way to the ramp. On the 17th of April 2021, we would see the biggest lie ever told. Rocats would continue to set records in Halo 3, setting the oldest world record on this list, dropping Salvo Highway twice in one day, down to a 312 on Legendary, a level we haven't seen much throughout this video, because overall, the level really hasn't changed much over the years. The most incredible accomplishment about this record is he does not bring a Passenger Marine at all. The Passenger Marine is typically required to absorb all the damage you normally receive in this level. Ultimately, it just boils down to driving the optimal route as cleanly as possible, maintain as much speed as you can, and praying you don't flip or spin out. With a really nice clean fuel rod pickup in this run. This level, having dropped 22 seconds over 4,317 days. This run remains a world record as of today. How many times have I said Sorix this video? Because another Sorix record would drop on the 21st of April 2021, just 18 days after his last full game world record. He would improve full game Legendary to a 1:11:31, with a very clean crow's nest, 8:43, putting him almost 40 seconds ahead of his previous world record, with a 9:25 crows in his previous run. This set him up with a nice strong early lead. Carrying the pace until the arc, his PB having a few arc deaths, so it being the biggest time save. He gets a gold arc and is a minute 20 ahead going into Covenant. Covenant being the strongest level in his previous run. A bit of Arbor patrolling, a Citadel death,
or not.
And missing a Citadel trigger would set him back.
There's no fucking way.
Finishing the Covenant with a bit of time loss, but still ahead overall. Not letting the time loss stop him, he would get a gold Cortana and enters Halo with an extreme close call during the Spire fight. He finishes the level in 11:17 and sets a new world record.
I'm not happy with that, but hey, that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
A couple new runners would join in setting records in 2021. Adzi would drop Halo and Arc Easy, and Yev would also drop Arc Easy even further. Sitting on the cusp of being sub 9, Yev would set a 903 arc. Without using the DC to the Ghost, he had a couple Furo boosts inside the final structure, and using the power drain to kill the brutes a little faster, something Adzi did in his 908s, but Yev had a slightly cleaner ending with his. Sasquatch would get his name on the full game easy leaderboard. Although only brief, he would set a new world record at 101:57. Unfortunately, no video for this exists anymore. It's still worth noting and celebrating the collective push for the game to be closer to the sub 1 goal. In the same week, we would see a flurry of Nails records, one of these being Covenant Legendary, bringing it down to a 10:04, almost being a sub 10 IL on Legendary. It was only a few years ago the community were trying to beat a 10:07 on Easy. A slight route change by using the camo to leave the third tower, instead of having it for the Citadel, so he could do the third tower exit launch. He would survive the Citadel without camo, killing the Chieftain and having his hammer pick up on the return. Not quite being able to carry the momentum over the final room, he instead uses the other box to launch himself to the end. A few days later, Sasquatch and Nails would go back and forth on Floodgate Legendary, ultimately dropping the time down to a 2:34, being 1 second faster than Hark's easy time. This run also found a new method of improving consistency of DC launches. I'd like to welcome you all to the brief pause buffer era. Remember, this is still when DC launches weren't quite working as they were intended to. The leg model hadn't been fixed yet. Not doing the DC clip, but still using the FPS change. A lot of time would currently be spent in the pause screen, something the community weren't too fond of, potentially adding minutes of time to the run spent in the pause menu. Also worth remembering that the time spent in the pause menu was not timed with the overall run. Nails would improve full game easy to a 101:50 just 2 days after his Floodgate record, but he wouldn't stop there. Just 11 days later, he improved it again to a 10110. The 10150 would have a 6th try Citadel clip, bringing back clipping to the full game category. We hadn't seen a DC clip since Sorix's 10322 in 2019, which makes sense since the leg model was still broken and would remain broken until the Season 8 patch released on October 15th, which was shortly after Nails' 10110. But now pushing the idea of clips being required to set a full game record. Nails' 10110 would feature both Bunker Bump and a first try Citadel clip, saving a good chunk of time. I should also explain that the pause in before a DC clip is the change input device. Holding back slowly simply isn't possible on most keyboards. Alright, things now are going to start heating up a lot more, with current world records becoming more and more frequent as we close in on the current day. 2 days after Nails' 10110 full game record, he would drop the current Halo Legendary record at 10:11, only 14 seconds behind the segmented time for the level. A small optimization found by that Aura guy on the Spark fight found it possible to shoot Spark even sooner than previously believed, and being able to carry the hammer swings further on the outside section. Without hitting the shifty first roundabout skip, and not hitting the second one at all, even flipping on the Wilsor special, he would still beat Sorix by 11 seconds, holding the record to this day. Shortly after this run, it's worth noting that a few things changed in the community for Halo 3 speedruns. Runners must now choose a frame rate to do the speedrun on, not allowing for the constant changing back and forth through the run. Rocat would continue living his lie by dropping the current Storm Legendary record on the 25th October 2021, set on a 506. Something I haven't mentioned yet is the Warthog ride at the start is entirely random, and you can sometimes lose seconds here, and it's completely beyond player control. There are some funny clips floating around of runners entirely soft-locking here because the driver decides to never reach his destination. Rocat would have a very close call with the drone entering the second lake bed, being saved by the invincibility provided by Cortana moments. He's a couple seconds ahead of the previous world record entering the warehouse, with most of his time saved being the final dash to the AA gun. His movement being much cleaner, not having to go out of his way too much for the second plasma pistol pickup. Sasquatch would again get his name on the full game leaderboard, setting a 10104 on the 13th of November 2021. Unfortunately, again, no video remains for this record. It would also be around this time that DC launches and clips would be fixed for the speedrun, meaning runs going forward would have a fixed and easier method of DC tricks, which we would see reflected in future runs. Sorix would, once again, set another small record in the full game legendary category, an 11-second improvement down to a 111.20. The run itself would be fairly similar to his previous record. He would gold arc again, being 12 seconds ahead entering Covenant. Experiencing some unfortunate time loss between Covenant and Cortana, he would enter Halo a few seconds behind. Risking it all with a fairly aggressive run to the final Warthog, he reaches the Warthog unscathed. Some smooth driving to finish the run, saving 15 seconds over his Halo, setting his final PB for the category, but not the world record. So if Sorix doesn't have the legendary world record today, who does? Could it be Rocats? Nails perhaps? Or someone else entirely? We'll get to that. Sasquatch dropped Sorix's Crow's Nest easy time, but unfortunately no video. And Nails have dropped Sasquatch's record even further, setting a 6:38 Crow's Nest easy, the current world record, with a more consistent means to DC launch up the elevator shaft by adding a few pause buffers. And just a faster bunker bump setup to drop the record by 3 seconds. Nails would drop another full game easy time, ending 2021 just 31 seconds from being a sub 1 hour. The new record would be 1 hour and 30 seconds. Surely a sub 1 hour is possible, right? I actually had initially planned this video to be released after this record dropped. I wanted it to be a sub 1 hour hype video. I'm a little late. Now here's what's interesting about this record. It does not feature silo clip, a trick that roughly saves 40 seconds. So you'd think sub 1 hour will be possible, right? This run would feature a ton of minor optimizations which add up over the course of the entire run. He does not do the vertical DC launch on Crow's Nest. He instead does a sideways launch down the drone tunnel. However, he would instead manually climb the elevator shaft, it overall being faster then waiting for the elevator to come down, then riding it back up again. Especially since he changes where he lands with the barrack skip. And instead of doing the bunker bump, he now has a new sideways DC launch down this hallway, launching him closer to the drones for the butterfly. He would position a deployable cover right at the end of the level, allowing for a minor redirect to the elevator. It's becoming incredible how far runners are going to shave seconds in as many places as possible. Another example of this will be featured on the arc. Continuing the trend of squeezing out every available second, Nails would use the brute shot to slightly propel himself forward with a series of shots at the start of the level, which we had started to see in previous ILs. Another new tiny optimization would be teleporting the Marines inside the structure after killing the Scarab. Nails would then attempt to navigate the Ghost through the first few corridors, saving time over walk-in, using a few more few-rod shots to propel himself forwards towards the end of the level. There is a new laser lineup of the Covenant beach fight to hit the Shade and AA Wraith at the same time. Just another small optimization for a cleaner beach fight. This run really highlights all the tiny optimizations the community had been discovering recently. That, over the course of an hour speedrun, adds up significantly. This run would feature a first try Citadel clip. Possibly the most tense reactor room launch of all time. Imagine being ahead of world record, nervous, and you manage to survive this launch. A truly clenched moment. Finishing the run with a 624 Cortana and a 946 Halo. This run really demonstrates how far the game has been pushed since coming to PC. The optimization now pushing a new level never seen before. Runners focusing on the importance of every second they can squeeze out of the game. And in 2021, here are all the world records. I want to say that I skipped over so many strong records this year. I did my best to focus on the biggest events of the year, but I can promise you I did not cover everything. 2021 and going forward, we focus on so many tiny optimizations, I can assure you, I would not be able to cover them all. We would see a few new runners early in 2022 set some new world records. Paz would beat Nails' Cortana Legendary, set in a 6:08. And Daniel Sita would take Floodgate Easy, set in a 2:28. Floodgate, in my opinion, being one of the most enjoyable levels to watch. Daniel flies through the level and lands one of the best debut records I've ever seen. His smooth movement shines from the moment he starts the level, getting a small boost from this road blockade thing. He also lands an incredible cone launch smoothly over this box, followed by a flurry of incredible hammer launches and DC launches. The community now able to do DC launches again with the leg models being fixed. This run is a blink and you'll miss it with how fast everything is. He's able to chain movement tricks together almost seamlessly. It feels like every 10 seconds, another trick's being hit. On the 21st of May, 2022, Zorix would be dethroned from the legendary full game category. Not taken too kindly to his previous behaviour, Zoo would return with the goal of vengeance. In the current legendary full game world record, Zoo would drop exactly 1 minute from Zorix's previous record. As of today, the full game legendary record sits at 1 hour, 10 minutes, and 20 seconds. Also worth noting is Zoo primarily plays his record on controller, the exception being some vehicle driving, and even then, Savo is entirely on controller. Let's take a look and see why this run hasn't been beaten yet. Starting off Sierra with the typical slide jumps, he also hits the phantom skip at the start. Continuing the old history strat of grabbing the brute shot to use the scariness factor to scare the enemies. He hits Moose Jump and carries on into the Cortana moment, using the brute shot to propel himself past it. With absolutely no hesitation through the Snapper Forest or the Gap Jump area, he hits the cutscene at 3:45. Going around the back to Johnson's prison, he would do his best to kill enemies to speed up the Pelican. An absolutely blistering start to the run, finishing Sierra in 5:57. Crow's Nest being the typical auto-scroller start. Not much happens until he grabs the hammer. Because it's legendary and him requiring the invincibility pickup, he cannot do the sideways DC down the drone tunnel. He does, however, do the new elevator climb. Which is funny because the strat has been hypothesized for years before being implemented in 2021. I managed to research this trick to existing back in 2007. He lands a couple more box launches before finishing the level, even going for the risky bomb room launch. Taking the backsmack in the Chieftain and leaving before anyone figured out what just happened. He finishes Crow's Nest in 8:28. A few close calls in the storm warehouse, but he manages to get through. Even having the safety of invincibility for the ending. Sniping the AA gun and ending the level in 550. Flying through floodgates, landing the first DC launch, and finishing the level with a scary pizza launch. A 309 floodgate. He starts up Arc, and even uses the little brute shot boost we've previously seen on Easy. He seamlessly changed his input device when boarding the Mongoose, hiding to let the Prowlers pass before getting back in the Mongoose. A satisfying transition to the Ghost, to continue driving to the Dawn clear, getting his Ghost out of bounds and clearing the Spark door. He would continue through to the Scarab, and does the superior board. Suffering a flare from an off-screen brute, it wouldn't stop Zoo. He reaches the cutscene without dying. Having a fist fight with this chieftain, I think this was personal. He's a clean ending and ends Arc in 11:27. He grabs the AA rate on the Covenant and skips the beach fight. A spectacular third tower exit, the open door helping killing the flood outside. His first death of the run would be in the Citadel. Absolutely remarkable to make it this far in a speedrun without dying. His second launch attempt is nice, although he does lose a bit of time trying to find and kill the chieftain for the hammer for the return. Covenant clocking in at 11:09. He would have a smooth Cortana ending in 6:43. With no glaring time loss for the first 8 levels, and only 1 death, he would enter Halo at an incredible pace. He has a bit of an intrusive flood at the start of Halo, making him miss his first attempt at Spire Climb. He hits the early second door inside the structure, but missing the first attempt at the auto-turret jump. Another death just before the Warthog, luckily with a close checkpoint. He loses control of the Warthog on the first roundabout. Other than that, it's an incredible run. With really not that much time loss, and only a few small deaths, it would be interesting to see if anyone would drop this run at sub 110 soon. It's particularly remarkable to me, since I helped push this game sub 130, to now see it 20 minutes faster is incredible. This run also features a real-life interaction between Zoo and Sorix. Nails will drop Sierra Legendary to an incredible 526, bringing the segmented dam clear to reality and featuring it in a real run. Aggressively killing everything as if it was easy, to speed up the Pelican spawning. This would drop the record by 13 seconds, which would be dropped by Sasquatch later in the year to a 5:21, being the current world record. Sasquatch saves 2 seconds prior to the river section, and a further 2 seconds for the dam cutscene, really highlighting how impressive his movement is over every other runner, meaning his dam clear would also save 1 second over Nails. June and July 2022 would see 2 more current world records being set, Crow's Nest Legendary in 751 and Cortana Legendary in 556, both set by Nails. With the increased difficulty of Legendary, he would not be able to do the drone door clip, and relying on invincibility from the Chieftain, he would also not be able to do the DC down the drone tunnel, nor up the elevator shaft, but instead does the climb up the shaft like we saw in his full game, using the new Sasquatch hammer launch after the jetpack fight to carry some momentum after the doors open, and bumping his way to a successful world record. 751 still being the record today. And his Cortana 556 would feature an absolutely disgusting sideways DC launch at the start, hitting one of the hardest Cortana overlaps in the run. Still utilising the camo timings through the hallways the Goat Rope first did in his 815 back in 2007. A smooth reactor room launch, and breaking the Cortana stasis in 2 swings. A smooth run back to the Pelican, ending the level safely in 556, the current world record and the first sub 6 legendary Cortana run. Rocats would set an incredible milestone on the 19th of July 2022, dropping Covenant sub 10 on legendary. Something I think would blow the minds of the community if you travelled back in 2017 and told them. Leaving the first tower, Rocats does not grip camo at all, knowing it's mostly a safety strat to assist with legendary, for runners to eventually leave it behind in favour of faster but harder strats. With an incredible launch already being required for a record, you may as well leave camo behind. which Rokat demonstrates perfectly in this run. Instead, being armed with a power drain to kill the chieftain for a second hammer for the return. Unfortunately, he's body blocked by a flood when attempting to carry his momentum to the end. He hits the backup launch and flies straight to the end of the level. Sub 10 without a single DC clip on Legendary is absolutely insane. Potentially, with more time save available, would anyone be brave enough to DC clip on Legendary? On the 23rd of July 2022, Nails would drop a 1 hour and 14 second easy time. The community collectively braced themselves for a sub 1 hour drop in any day. I'm not going to cover this run too much, but a very quick glance would show a sub 1 it's still been very possible. Oddly, this run will go back to featuring the grav lift from Savo. I assume after Bunker Bump, he wanted to finish a run, and didn't want to risk losing time to potentially miss and liftless. We will revisit full game in a few minutes. Sierra 117 would drop to a 4:45 on easy after Nails' 1 hour and 14 second full game time. This run ought to be in the current world record. It's hard to really pinpoint and point out what makes this record so special, but the movement required to hit a 4:45 would require chaining together such precise movement and hitting consecutive slide jumps. It really demonstrates a mastery of the game's movement. With Sasquatch having since tied this record, it's one of the rare tied records in Halo 3, but Nails hits a 4:45 first. This run would also feature a slightly different down route than previous, saving a small amount of time to get back in position with the Pelican, but still killing the required enemies. Alright, we have arrived. This is the moment we've all been waiting for. Going back to this extremely ambitious post by DJ Dap, the guy at the start of the video, he would correctly predict Halo 3 going sub 1 hour. Not quite having the level of skips he's referencing in this post, and his time frame is slightly off the mark. We would finally achieve Halo 3 easy full game in 59 minutes and 58 seconds by Nails on the 5th of August 2022. The journey spanning 15 years, hundreds of records, thousands of man hours, and a dedicated and fantastic community, this monumental accomplishment be possible. Let's break down this historic run and see what it would take to push Halo 3 sub 1 hour. As we had just seen demonstrated, Nails' impeccable movement he slides through Sierra 17 with pristine accuracy, hitting as many slides as possible, while also using grenades and brute shots to boost him where appropriate. Clearing the broken bridge and grabbing the chieftain's hammer, and proceeding to kill the correct enemies as fast and efficiently as possible. It even discovered that it's possible to swing fast with the hammer by double swapping weapon by just a few frames per swing, finishing Sierra in 4:53. Now, I will admit the first few minutes of Crows is pretty lackluster, but Nails does not use this as an excuse to go slow. He still squeezes out a few boosts where possible. A new sideways DC launch out of the hangar, going back to the corridor, where he adds a few more grenade boosts before heading back to the drones. As we've come to expect on Easy and the new route, he sideways DDC launches down the drone tunnel and jumps up the elevator shaft. He does not go for the Sasquatch hammer launch, but instead goes for the Tripwire hammer boost, before lining up and landing the infamous cave clip. The community now realizing DC clips are a requirement of the shot and improving the full game world record, which is an inevitability we knew was coming. A funny small contrast is Hipfire and I discussing when the future of Easy ILs becomes so optimized that DC launch is becoming required. Look how far we've come. Interestingly, Nails attempts Salvo Liftless, actually missing his first attempt, having a revert, hitting it on his second try. Quick clears in both Storm lake beds. He notices and kills the grunt at the spiker in the second lake bed. Every runner has lost a run to this grunt, since he's a Phantom gunner. As long as he is alive, the Phantom is marked as alive as well, and the level won't progress. Sometimes, the Phantom explodes, and the grunt survives out of bounds, and the run is essentially over. He quickly clips with the Mongoose, and sideways DC launches through the warehouse to end the level. Even being as brave to add in a blaze boost while juggling 2 plasma pistols. He would hammer and DC launch through floodgates with a single revert to the DC launch. A 2:58 floodgate in a full game run. Only getting a partial deload at the spark door, he is to kill the Wraith Gunner to meet the enemy count for the door timer to activate. There is a new strategy coming through the wall approaching the Scarab. He ditches the chopper for a ghost, which we'd also seen in his 8:54 arc world record 19 days prior. The reason for taking the ghost is to save a couple seconds entering the final structure over walk-in by trying to get through these tiny corridors. I'm pretty sure, as fast as this looks, it would only save a second or two over walk-in. This was an old shifty strat that he toyed with, which also featured in Halo 3 Done Segmented. Go in for the YOLO clip at the Citadel. By not killing the Scarabs, you do not get a checkpoint in case you miss the DC clip. It saves a lot of time if you hit it, but it's an extremely high risk trick, since it's very hard to hit the trick with a lot of potential time loss. This late in a run, it's a super high risk trick, but it paid off and was worth it for this historic run. A great Citadel launch, and an even better return launch to end Covenant in 839, being the strongest level in the entire run, considering an 839 as of today would still be second place. Experiencing a rather unfortunate flood in the Cortana Hell Room, he has to go for a rather slow backup. The rest of the level has some nice hammer launches, coupled with some nice DC launches. I'm not sure what happens here, if he accidentally throws a DC, but he misses the backup jump, and has to resort to doing Cortana full path, losing quite a bit of time. He hits the chap special, validating the run, a 634 Cortana, despite the weird things that happened in the level. A fancy lineup to shoot Johnson for the Dial skip, and have him spawn inside the Spire for the first door. He has a second door open as well, but it closes before he reaches it. Hammer launching himself with a Warthog, combining invincibility with carries exploding to propel him as fast as he can without risk of dying. A grand finish to the run, hitting Sleepless third and Will's Law special to land their very first sub 1 hour Halo 3 easy full game time. The milestone had been reached. The community went crazy in celebration. Even tribute videos were made. The very same day, Nails would set the current world record of Covenant easy. Imagine setting a historic full game record, and then going on to set another world record, a 1 second improvement over his previous 824. Nails truly showed his domination of the series. This time, he shows off the laser lineup on the beach properly, hitting a 26-second beach clear. Nails drops the current Storm Easy world record to 439 on the 1st of December 2022, pushing the warehouse section even further by landing the double DC launch ending, something Danza theorized many years ago. Sasquatch would set both Floodgate world records just 2 days apart. Floodgate Easy in 226 and Legendary in 229. Absolutely blistering launches throughout. These two records would tie up 2022 for us. What an absolute incredible year. The closer in time we've come to the present day, the more I want to cover every record set because of how incredible they all are. Comparatively a slower year than previous, with only 19 records, but an extremely memorable one. 2023, current year, with 13 records already. It has proven to be another incredible year with a bunch of noteworthy things happening. Nails would drop the current Halo Easy world record by 1 second, with one of my favourite little tricks. Approaching the Warthog with a rocket launcher, he does something I find quite comedic, that no one had thought of before. He shoots the hog closer to him, something that is so simple when you think about it, yet so easily overlooked for 15 years. Continuing the trend of bringing segmented strategies to life, Nails would drop a Cortana Easy by 8 seconds with his run. The current world record for this level features a previously segmented only strategy. By combining a spike grenade with this panel, he's able to launch the entire hallway, saving a significant amount of time to walk in it. Using another new strategy of getting up this hole, he's able to keep the DC for another new launch on the return to the Pelican. Sorinx would come out of retirement to drop the Arc Legendary multiple times to a 10-13, a small adjustment to the Dawn fight, using the Plasma Turret to kill the 2 AA rates, saving the time it takes to board them and kill them manually. He also changes the Ghost Out of Bounds route to be slightly faster. I'm not sure what it is about Savo and attracting new runners, but the current Savo Easy world record and the previous record would be set by relatively unknown runners who seemingly came out of nowhere. ATW set Savo Easy in 304 on the 13th of April 2023, using the tiny optimization found by Seclusive at the start. It was found to be barely even a full second faster to drive the Warthog to the button, grinding this level for over a month, and even considering a 303. We may see an update this video shortly, and with Salvo, there's not much to say with this level other than driving well, hitting liftless, and praying to RNGesus. Who here thought that the 59-58 would kill the category? Because I did too. That was until Nails set a flurry of full game world records a week ago, dropping the game to an absolutely absurd 59-14, the current world record. He dropped 3 full game world records within a week, a 59-44, a 59-39, and the potential nail in the coffin at 59-14. Get it, Nail? Comparing to his 59-58, Salvo liftless is attempted yet missed again, same as the 59-58, losing a few seconds to the Storm Warthog driver, deciding he didn't want Nails to go too fast today. He would attempt Danza's Floodgate redirect launch, but he would miss and have to go back to the old Pete's launch method. A brand new launch at the start of the arc. Carrying on the new tradition of taking the Ghost through the final structure of the arc. It hits a 9:05 arc, one of the fastest arcs ever without the DC launch of the Mongoose at the start, with every IL sub 9 featuring the DC launch. He again risks the entire run on the YOLO Citadel clip, which pays off. Looking at his Cortana Hell Room would show a much cleaner ascent over his 59-58, ending Cortana in 5:56, saving a big chunk of time over his 6:34 Cortana in his 59-58 run. Finishing up Halo, he uses a little trick of shooting the hog closer and sets the full game world record. Imagine if we had the joy of watching Nails streams, with Sasquatch and Yev hot on his heels, with both having new PBs in April 2023. Will we see anyone dethrone Nails? And who will be the first to get Halo 3 in a 58-minute run? Sasquatch currently in second place at 1 hour and 11 seconds, and Yev in third at 1:01:02. We have 2 final world records to cover for this video, Nails being both of them. The current Arc Easy world record will be set on the 19th of April 2023, an 8:47. Surprisingly, not doing the new Arc launch we saw in his full game run, but he does the DC to the Ghost. With an absurd amount of boost this level, boosting himself every feasible moment of the run. And we have finally arrived at the present day with the final record on this list. The current world record for the Covenant Legendary, set on April 30th, 2023. Legendary now featuring the absolutely absurd YOLO Citadel clip, dropping Rokatz's record by 19 seconds. And here we are. Current Halo 3 stands with these as the world records. 15 years in the making, an absolute hell of a journey. None of this would be possible without an amazing community. With the prospect of further goals on the horizon, I look forward to the first 58-minute easy time. Will anyone beat Zoo and bring Halo 3 Legendary sub 110? Will all Legendary ILs go sub 10? With Arc at 10:13 and Halo at 10:11, it's definitely within reach. There's still a lot to be discovered, skips still to hit, and ideas to pursue. I want to share a few stats with you guys to put things into perspective. Nails has only just passed Nagato's total time combined for holding the Halo 3 Easy full game record. Nagato held the record for 660 days, and Nails has just passed 680 days. And moving to Legendary, Sorix held the record for an incredible 1,461 days, almost half the total time since the first run. And history set the most records, dropping it 9 times. Also, with the total record set leaderboard, Nails, being one of the newest names on the list, has set 47 world records, with honourable mentions going to GoatRip at 17, myself at 14, 7 of mine being the full game category. Anyway, I want to thank each and every one of you for watching this video. It has been about a year in the making. I want to do more of these videos, but there's such a huge time investment. We'll see for the future. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.